48255 is the number. I just got this from Carl. He's talking about Twitter. I was mentioning how Trump uses Twitter very effectively. He said Twitter isn't as good of an indicator as Facebook. They all have them connected, and they trend together. Twitter accounts tend to have 1/4 the number of followers or less. In other words, he's saying that Facebook, in terms of, let's call it the loyalty and the reliability of the people who are there, is much more of an indicator than Facebook is better than Twitter. And I don't deny that. But simply what I was saying is that Trump very effectively uses Twitter as a means of communication and staying out there. Oftentimes, things that we hear and that get Trump publicity are things that he says on his Twitter account. So he is very effective at communicating, and this is the point I was trying to make, and what D'Antonio was trying to make is the man is very effective at communicating, getting his brand, his message out. And this is why I say he would be a better salesman than these other guys. The problem that Republicans tend to have, and this is the problem that Mitt Romney had, and should Hillary Clinton wrap this thing up in short order, regardless of what, legal ramifications may still be down the road, she will be able to start then focusing her attention on the Republicans, as Barack Obama did. And they branded Mitt Romney. I mean, other than to conservatives, they described who and what Mitt Romney was to the nation, right?
Yep.
That's kind of already been done to Ted Cruz. The impression of him in the nation has already been pretty well sealed by what we see as a very positive thing, him standing up in Congress, and it definitely is shows him to be an quote-unquote outsider. But in the process of doing that, the media has already been branding him. And he hasn't been able to effectively counter that brand that they have put on him. Trump, they can't brand Trump. Trump's already branded himself. Everybody, you can find out all the dirt you want on Donald Trump. It's already all out there. Mm-hmm. And yet his brand still sparkles. His brand is still gold. So and this is part of what the establishment and others don't seem to understand is how can he get through all of these things? It's because we already know who he is. We're not really finding anything new out about him when he says these outrageous things, are we really? Oh, really? Donald Trump said something outrageous. So, tell me something new, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's already effectively branded himself. So it's going to be very difficult for the media and the Democrats to rebrand him. What they'll try to do is they'll try to take some of his brand and use it against him, like his ostentatious lifestyle or something like that. But it's going to be kind of hard because he will be able to turn around and use that same argument against, guess who? Hillary Clinton, right? With their now $230 million net worth, based on what did they do to get $230 million? Well, let's see. She was Secretary of State, pays a couple $100,000 a year. Maybe she put that into cattle futures like that. Yeah. And he gave speeches. $230 million, huh? For giving speeches.
Yeah, but he was getting almost $500,000 a speech, and if you're doing 2 a week,
well,
you make money.
Yeah.
And they can really relate to the poor and the downtrodden, right?
Well, there's my point. See, Trump will have an easier time branding them.
Well, because he employs them.
Then they're going to have branding him. And this will come to play after Election Day. You see, we got to think, okay, if Ted Cruz gets elected, what is the Congress going to come, calling with cakes and cookies and welcoming him to the White House?
Not likely.
Not likely at all.
He could always do an Obama.
Especially, not really.
I have a phone and a pen.
Well, he's supposed to be the constitutionalist, though, isn't he?
Yes.
So he may have already limited himself in that capacity.
Well, he might have the Constitution printed on his phone.
What he can do now is certainly reverse everything Obama has done by the pen and the phone.
He would do it. Cruz would do it. There's no doubt.
And I don't doubt that Donald Trump would do a lot of that, too. Ben Carson would do a lot of that, too. I'm not so sure about Marco Rubio, and Jeb has already told us that he wouldn't.
No.
Jeb's told us that he would not.
No, Jeb's a wuss.
Well, he may be yesterday's wuss at that. We shall find that out tomorrow, which would make today yesterday, right?
Yeah. Now you're going to start getting me confused about changing the clock.
That's coming up in a couple of weeks here. So the effectiveness after Election Day. One of the things that made Ronald Reagan so effective as a president is his ability to go over the head of Congress to the people. And not only did he have Tip O'Neill as a pain in his butt, but he had Bob Dole as a pain in his butt, too. Mm-hmm. Bob Dole was... these tax cuts are too deep. These budget cuts are too deep. We can't do this. So Ronald Reagan went to the public and said, we need these tax cuts. We need these budget cuts to get this economy rolling again. And the phone started ringing on the Capitol Hill. Next thing you know, he starts accumulating votes, and he gets tax cuts, 2 years worth of them.
Right.
But it wasn't because Bob Dole was there helping him out all along the way. He was fighting him.
Well, yeah, because he was a typical establishment guy.
And Reagan was not.
Right. Reagan was the bold colors and not the pastels like everybody else was.
And who's the bold colors and not the pastels right now? It's Trump and Carson. And that's why they're way ahead in this thing. And at the end of the day, they may end up actually negating one another. Politics is a weird thing. We shall see. But I think it's going to be interesting to see who drops out over these next few weeks. Because the more people in this thing certainly advantages Trump and Carson. The fewer people in this thing, I think, probably at some point begins to advantage the establishment. Not maybe enough to get past that 50%. But if Trump and Carson are sort of battling one another for that 50 to 60%, and a Rubio can come over here and get the other 40%, he could actually end up winning the whole thing, even though the real conservatives want the outsider. If it comes down to Trump, Carson, and Rubio, Rubio probably wins this thing. So, the establishment candidates are probably going to start peeling off. The ones who are really in it because they want to win it, or they want to stick it to the establishment, will try to stay in this thing as long as possible. So, friends of Trump would be guys like, and Carl mentioned Pataki. The longer Pataki stays in, even if it's only drawing 1 or 2%, better for Trump.
Yeah.
The longer Jindal stays in, the longer Rand Paul stays in. This is all good for Trump. The more those guys get out, at some point, the votes will begin to coalesce around an establishment guy. Will it be enough? Remains to be seen. But that is how it should. As I said, the next debate is Wednesday, so we shall see what happens after that debate if anybody decides to drop out. And as Aubrey mentioned earlier, rumors are going around on Drudge that
the Jeb is about to drop.
Yeah, and if his attitude that we saw yesterday on stage is any indicator, he's got lots of better things to do anyway, right? All right, so let's go to John on line 1. John, thanks for calling tonight.
The reason Ronald Reagan did a good job because he had to negotiate with the worst guys in the country. That is Hollywood. He knew how to do that.
You know, I'd forgotten about that, but you're right.
The job that we have now is a negotiator. And there's nobody who has the experience. I don't care who they are or what they are. Nobody has the experience of doing the job and negotiating better than Donald Trump.
You know,
on the other hand,
yep.
Ben Carson knows how to turn people around. So what a combination with the both of them.
That's my dream ticket, John, would be Trump Carson. Trump to turn the economy around, to turn our stature around in the world, to rebuild our military, and Ben Carson to turn hearts and minds around, like you just said, because you're right. He is so very effective at that. And you're right. There's no better negotiator on this field, either side, than Donald Trump. And it's because
he could turn this country around faster than anybody can think.
I believe you're absolutely right. Because he's such a tough negotiator.
Right.
You know, the people who negotiate against him always end up giving in to him because he knows how to get what he wants. And that's what we need desperately.
Keep it up. You got a good program.
John, thanks so very much. Keep calling back. We love it when you call. You hear?
Thank you.
All right. You have a good night. Thanks. And by the way, John is a great American. He's a veteran of World War II. And brave, very, very brave and smart man. God, is John smart. And he knows